Hello, welcome to the Flicks Forum podcast with your hosts Jesse Heater and MJ, where each week we go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This week we're looking at Netflix's 37th film. We have come a long way.
I was just thinking that.
Just looking at the number.
37?
That's huge. It's the 2017... In a row? This is the 2017 comedy Handsome, a Netflix mystery movie. It's directed by and stars Jeff Garlin, Natasha Lyonne, Amy Sedaris, Leah Remini, Christine Woods, and Stephen Weber. Hello.
Hey, mate.
Hey, mates.
You sound crook still, MJ.
A little bit. Just lingering in the voice. It's my sexy podcast voice.
You're looking a lot better.
I feel better.
At least we're not recording in a hospital this week.
Yeah.
Last week, the sound last week I don't think was that good.
Rising from the ashes. That's the things I do for my Flicks Forum audience. I can't let you guys down.
So, we kick off the show usually with the Fast Flicks, where we do our quick summary of the film. Heater, tell us what you thought about this film, or what your whatever.
What's Fast Flicks?
So Fast Flicks, all right, it's short and sweet. So, a homicide detective who is getting close to retirement is tasked with solving the murder of his new neighbour's babysitter.
Wow, I'm going to go mine next because I feel like
yeah.
mine's very similar.
Did we write the exact same
Pretty
one?
much. A detective must try and solve the murder of his next door neighbour's babysitter.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
You didn't mention that he's near retirement.
I didn't because I didn't think that really mattered.
I just wanted to get a few more words into mine. I would have gone for like 3 seconds.
MJ.
Gene Handsome, a talented LA homicide detective, investigates a murder alongside his ragtag team of crime solvers, interviewing a town of numbskulls and trying to solve a not so clever crime.
You've gone all out there. My question is, what's he talented at?
He's a good detective.
Oh, okay, at being a detective.
Yeah, he's a good detective.
Good.
He's a talented LA homicide detective. You know, when I realised that there was a character's name called Gene Handsome, the title made so much more sense. I've been looking at this film on our list of films that we need to cover, and I'm like, Handsome, a Netflix murder mystery movie. What? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
None of it made sense. And as soon as it's like, his name's Handsome, I'm like, okay.
So much more sense now.
That's what I was going to say off air before. So yeah, no. Yeah.
That was definitely worth the wait. Definitely worth the wait.
So, what have we found out about this film?
Not much.
No, not much at all.
There wasn't a lot online. So it was filmed in LA.
Yep.
And I couldn't find it at Premiere anywhere. I feel like it just went straight to Netflix. Yeah, so it was acquired by Netflix.
Well, it goes with the title.
Yeah,
I think that's what they
yeah, okay. Acquired by Netflix in June. June of 2016. Released in May of 2017. So hold on to it for.
I'm pretty sure. No,
I think
they
still being made.
They bought the idea.
Yeah,
and
they bought the idea. So
yeah, cool.
I believe that Jeff Garlin kind of pitched the idea to Netflix.
Okay.
And it's actually interesting hearing him talk about how so many movie executives nowadays hate hearing like the word genre when you're trying to pitch an idea. They'll basically kick you out of the room straight away. Where your big movie studios really want to be making a movie that appeals to everyone. So they'll really water down the tone, the themes, some of the subtleties, just so it will appeal to everyone so they can maximise their box office.
Yeah.
Whereas Netflix, on the other hand, they want to make a film for everyone. So there'll be an audience that wants to see Handsome on Netflix. There'll be an audience that wants to see horror, action, crime, romance. So that rather than making one film that's just going to appeal to everybody, they just get a whole bunch of other films, which is obviously the model that we see when we do this podcast. So every film's really quite different. So that gives directors an opportunity to make these kinds of films. There's no way in the world that this film is getting made if it's going to have a theatrical release from a big movie studio.
No.
And apparently Jeff Garlin initially pitched it as he wanted to do a stand-up comedy special around the ideas of being an LA detective. And that was the idea that he pitched. And I think when they started sort of filming it, it was him and, that private investigator that lives next door to him.
Yeah.
That they kind of have like 1 or 2 scenes with.
The guy who reckons his dog's shitting on his lawn.
Yep. So they filmed all these scenes about those two, sort of clashing and having their stories about being a detective and being a PI. And basically they just cut all those scenes because they started filming more of the film and realised that the story wasn't about that, it was about this. So interesting concept that, you can get your idea signed off nice and early. You can change it, tweak it a little bit. He said no one from Netflix ever even went to the set once.
Just trusted him to do his thing.
Yeah, just trusted him to do his thing. So that was about all I could find on this film. There wasn't too much.
I saw there's a drive-through scene where
that was a weird drive-through scene.
It was weird. It's interesting.
Strange.
It's an interesting scene, but so what's Jeff Garlin's character's name again? I've already forgotten.
Gene Hansen.
Hansen, exactly. Wow, it's an impact this film's made. When he's going through that drive-through, the kids that serve him at the drive-through, one was his son and one was his son's mate. So that was cool. And the other thing was the music was done by Ben Folds.
I did see that at the end on the credits.
I thought that was interesting. Cool. Yeah.
But that drive, like, nothing to do with the actual scene itself. Is that a concept, like a drive-through concept, or is that because of the speakers and stuff?
I think the speakers were stuff, so that stand out there, which is still weird in itself. Like, just say drive-through's broken and it's come in. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Yeah, it was really.
So what's Jeff Garlin done from a directing perspective?
This is his third feature film.
Yeah.
So you know him from a lot of from like Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Goldbergs, those sorts of shows. So his first one was called Someone to Eat Cheese With.
Yep, I did look up that.
And the second one was Dealing with Idiots, but no G, just like a little apostrophe. Dylan. So a
few shorts as well.
So yeah, I haven't seen either of those two.
He says most of his films are around the 80-minute mark, and he's all along the less is more concept with comedy. The idea of
totally agree with that.
Leave the audience wanting more.
So may have been a better 20-minute film.
I'm sure you don't agree with me. You know when a gun sportsman retires and you're like, oh, he had 2 more years in him. And you remember him being like, oh, he could have been anything, or he could have been better. Yeah. I think that's his idea of.
Okay. Are you saying that Jeff Garlin should never make a film again?
His idea is that if I drag it out too long, it will get worse and worse, and they'll be like, you've taken this too far. But I agree with this film.
Well, so that came in 2017, 2019. I'm glad we haven't had any more. What's the consensus? Consensus on this was really hard to find because it doesn't even have a Rotten or score on Rotten Tomatoes.
It doesn't have a score.
It only has 4 reviews.
Yeah.
3 negative and 1 positive.
That's Rotten Tomatoes in a nutshell for you.
Yeah, don't like basing anything on Rotten Tomatoes, but then you have a look at the audience reception on Rotten Tomatoes. 30%, but it's only off 186.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That means
which is why we use IMDb and Letterboxd more often.
It's all about Letterboxd.
So IMDb
5.3 out of 10 for just over 3,000 reviews, and then Letterboxd 2.4 out of 5. 1,100, which again is very much on the lower, the lower end.
Not many people seen it,
but
or rated it.
But it's not a bad, considering what the film was. It's actually not a bad result.
Pretty good score for what it was.
2.4 is pretty low on Letterboxd.
All right, what are our early thoughts on this film, Peter? What are you thinking before we get into it?
I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it. I kind of sat through watching it going, what am I watching? Like, I wasn't, I wasn't liking the film, but I didn't think it was awfully bad. I was just kind of like, what is happening here?
Yep.
I really wanted to like it. I think I love Jeff Garlin in The Goldbergs. I think Murray Goldberg is one of my favourite characters on TV right now. But this just didn't work for him. I think maybe he took too much on with the writing, directing, starring, and I was really leaning into it early, like trying.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a little bit funny. You know what? That is funny. That's funny. And I gave it the benefit of the doubt with some of the jokes.
Talk yourself into it
being
funny?
But I did think them funny. I actually rewatched one of the scenes afterwards, and I still think it's funny. But around the 20-minute mark, I reckon it just lost me, and I'm like, no, this is it's not gonna be good.
It's gonna be work.
and it wasn't. It was just tough. Like it was so inoffensive. Like we watched some films.
Isn't offensive?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. As in, like,
you're
watching it as a film.
Yeah, like, why are you making me watch this? It wasn't like that.
Yeah, it wasn't like that at all, but it was just strange. Jesse, you did not like it?
So I spoke last week. This is obviously where I've gone back to back. I'm going to watch this. So I've seen.
Did you remember this one?
This film when it first came out.
Did you remember how it ended?
I did remember. Well, the opening scene makes it pretty evident.
God,
anyway, we'll talk about that later.
I have thoughts on that.
I struggled to get through this on the second time. It was like when you have this recurring nightmare that you wake up and you're like, oh, I've had that dream before. And it was like, oh, wow.
That's because you watched the film before.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was like. for a comedy, I didn't laugh once.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what sort of killed it for me a little bit. If you're going to pitch it as a comedy and use Netflix mystery movie in the title and open it up like you're telling us straight away what happens, I need something to make me laugh, and it didn't. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Yep, fair enough.
All right, look, characters. Let's talk about some characters.
I found it hard to really dig into any of the characters except for Gene Handsome. Obviously, he's probably the one character we really do get to know.
Yeah, I didn't hate him.
He was kind of an interesting character.
Yeah.
He was likable.
It was likable without liking him too much, but I did not like him, so he was okay.
I was wondering whether the commentary on his lonely life was ever really going to go anywhere, though, and it kind of didn't. He never really properly pushed it. But he's a good detective, and they make that clear that he's a good detective. He is the leader of their detective squadron, whatever you want to call it, and they're all like numbskulls. I don't know, they're all idiots. And he, in spite of them, does well, and he solves obviously this crime, and you get the idea that he solves a lot of crimes. But does he need? Is the idea that he needs to be more confident and out there in his personal life? So he's got this, quite successful. He's really confident when he's on the job, but in his personal life, he just kind of sits there with his dog. And
it didn't seem like he really cared though.
You're right though. He didn't seem to care either.
In that personal life, he seemed pretty content with his life.
He did, didn't he? But then, they highlight all these guys dating the lady next door that he's clearly into, and all this stuff's kind of happening around them because they're all just going and doing it. And but you're right. I agree. I'm sitting there thinking, is this going to end with him coming out of his shell and achieving something that he wants to achieve? But then I'm like, does he even care? And does he care? I don't know. It's strange.
It didn't seem like he was just so content with everything.
I think he probably cared. He just didn't show it.
Yeah.
But then why do you end it with nothing? It was interesting. I almost want to see more of this character. I don't know, just to see where it goes and what else.
I might have a good question for you for our social media follows at the end of the show.
Okay.
I want to go. I'll go through the characters I've got listed down, and then you tell me what you guys think. I think that's probably a good way to do it. So, Karis, the little kid, the daughter of the next door neighbor,
creepy,
super creepy,
creepy as hell,
and her dancing was just was not funny.
We'll get to the...
Okay, all right.
We'll get to scenes
we'll get to the good scenes.
Didn't like her. The lieutenant in his office with the cookies.
So annoying.
And her weirdly gross feelings for him were just... It was just... That was not funny either.
But she was also a little bit kind of Alzheimer's.
It was off 2 scenes and she was off her chops and bones.
She didn't know
was pretty batshit.
what was going on. Yeah.
Fleur.
Okay.
His partner and
who was very over the top and
to me,
outspoken.
Genuine comic relief. I thought Natasha Lyonne was a standout performance in this film. I think that she knew that she was working with very little.
Yep.
And she completely owned it. And I think she knocked it out of the park. I thought she was really good.
I did not find one piece of her dialogue funny.
Okay.
I thought 99% of her dialogue was disgusting and not called for.
It's supposed to be though.
I know I was supposed to be, but if you're gonna do a jarring, gross joke, at least make it funny.
I guess that's
so. I'm not gonna verbatim quote these things, but she likes to bend people over and eat popcorn out of their.
Yeah, so I've got that in my. I'm going to talk through that scene later.
All right. When talking about blackmail, she talks about how she had a blackmail incident with a teacher.
Yeah, I think that she, as I said, she owned it enough, and I thought it was really
asking
funny.
A guy if he likes the move where she made his bend all the way right.
That was funny.
No. She has an achy lady part and it's pulsing, meaning that he may need some help. Or that she can't handle 3 toes in there anymore.
When did you grow up so quickly?
Oh, I know. I feel like a grumpy old man. I'm a grumpy old man.
You were used to be
maybe if
as
I was
immature
a
as us.
15-year-old kid watching this, I'd find it funny.
I thought it was pretty funny. Probably not to the extent of MJ's, but definitely not your spectrum. But I think a little bits at times it was a bit over the top. But in general, I liked her.
I thought she was funny. The shining light of the film. And Jeff Garlin actually wrote the part for her specifically.
Nice. Okay, good on him. That Jerpus cop guy. He had those long, ridiculous stories.
Well, he was only in it for the first 2 scenes.
Yeah.
And you know what? I wanted more of him.
That is in my favourite scenes. That was the best part of the movie, his stories.
So they set this up really nice. And especially when every time he spoke, he said, Detective Jerpis, as if they didn't know who he was.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know who he is.
When they stopped that. They did it twice, and it was funny. It would have been even funnier if they had
Talk
a
about that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Maybe I am getting old.
You are getting old.
I'm getting old.
And don't get me wrong, I gave this movie a really low score. Really low score. So.
The receptionist at the firework company. She was annoying and stupid. They made this joke about her pushing the wrong buttons.
Oh yeah, when she's
trying to dial in the dude, and then the whole thing about the coffee table book. She's going to freak out because she won't have a coffee table book.
But this is her real issue as a receptionist.
You're getting pretty upset about very minor characters.
I know. Okay, there's some more minor characters that I got really upset about. So we meet Charles, which is like the daughter Karis's mate.
Oh yeah,
and
it's a young kid.
Yeah, and then Devon, the next door neighbor, the hot guy. So Handsome walks in the door, meets this Charles kid, walks inside, then meets the next door neighbor Devon in this one scene. Both meet him in 30 seconds, and that's it. I know we see the young kid at the end, but. What was they were useless.
Well, the guys that were dating the next door neighbour, I think they were all about just showing the difference between Handsome and them.
Yeah.
But then she was happy to snuggle up on the couch to him the next night. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
What did you think of Nora, though?
Okay, Nora. All right, Nora. Nothing character. Absolutely nothing. All she did was dream. It was literally about her dreams, about her work and her dental work, and then her dreams about having a future house. And
I didn't think too much of her either.
I didn't either. I agree with you.
Yeah, and then she had this one line where she's like, he's looking at her sleeping, and she wakes up and goes, "What do you think about having a shaved?"
Yeah, that was
whatever. I was like, "Duh."
Heater's already said shit in this podcast, so you can say shaved.
Damn it! Now I have to put an explicit thing on this podcast.
That's what I'm saying. It's already been.
I said it early, man.
Yeah,
sorry.
Used it, so
I've tried so hard not to
put the explicit warning.
Anyway,
Pussy's all right.
I don't think there's any other characters we can talk about.
No, you covered.
Sorry,
7 more than I was.
Did you like the killer?
Oh,
the actor.
No,
he was annoying.
Yeah, he was annoying.
So annoying.
We're going to talk about the first scene.
Yeah, I think we definitely. I find it hard when you have a film where you don't like one character. Like, I didn't not like Handsome, but I didn't like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
That's a fair one. I kind of like him. I do. I like Jeff Garlin. I think he's a funny guy, and I wanted to see more. And I was cool with seeing him, and I really wanted Fleur on screen as much as possible because she did crack me up. Like, even when she's just talking about like how she's got to go take a shit or whatever. She's like, "Oh, it's cool, man. I'll wait for you." No, it's fine. Like, everyone knows that she's going to shack up with the guy in the room. I found it pretty funny. Sorry.
Could this have been a Kevin James film? Could you see Kevin James playing Handsome?
Are you saying this from a weight perspective, Jesse?
No, this is me.
Big burly comedian.
No, this is me. You just said you thought that you love him in the Goldbergs, and that's one of your favorite characters.
I do love Kevin James.
You've said on this podcast that you love Kevin James and King of Queens. So my thing was, hey, maybe you could see him in this role.
I can't see how it wouldn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. So it had nothing to do with the weight whatsoever.
I think it'd be fine.
Thank you for trying to make me have to be a bad person.
No, I just thought you're typecasting.
Oh, okay. Fair. They're both white, wasn't it?
Yeah, I could see Kevin James doing this.
He could do it.
Maybe it would have been a better film.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially.
Maybe.
I may have laughed once at least.
I got a preference that I think
maybe if you weren't so mature, you would have laughed.
Yeah.
I've really only watched Jeff Garlin in the Goldbergs, but he's that good in it. But that's a great character too, so, I mean, what can you do?
Anything else you want to talk about? The actors, cast?
No.
All right, let's have a look at some scenes. What, MJ, tell us what you like. There's some scenes that made you laugh. Tell us what
don't
made
get
you
me
laugh.
wrong, I gave this film a really low score, but I still laughed in it. I think the first time I laughed was when Jeff Garlin and Natasha Lyonne are in the car talking about San Andreas.
Oh no!
Best movie ever.
So they were riffing really nicely. It felt really. It was almost like they were just sitting in the car. He's like, "You know what I watched last night? I watched San Andreas. I'm like, best film ever. And then they're just, who won the Oscar in 2015 that was better than San Andreas? And then just at the end, I loved it. Like, I thought that was a really good riffing between those two.
It's in my worst scenes. Next.
Okay, so this is the scene that I rewatched. When they are inspecting the body in front of the house, which actually leads in from the San Andreas scene.
Yeah.
Just you've obviously already been introduced to the ragtag team of crime solvers that he's working with. When they find out that the body's been placed in the Star of David, and the guy just goes, Jesus, and then the other guy just goes, Sir, can I quit the force forever? I thought that was very funny. And then,
come on, Jesse, laugh. That was funny.
Detective Jerpis says, it's Detective Jerpis here. And then he had a long wind story about the fact that it's clearly a drive-by. And the girl's got her head cut off. And then he ends it with, case closed. And then Jeff Garlin's like, we haven't got a killer. And then he pauses and goes, and that's why you're the boss. But then my favourite line of the whole film, which is you touched on before as a bad line, is when Fleur's chatting through the details and she's like, the house belongs to Talbot Bacon. He's like, the actor? And she goes, yeah, I'd bend him over. And then what? As if, like, give me more details. Yeah. And then what? What do you mean? I just bent him over and ate a little popcorn out his ass. I paused it and wrote it down because I was laughing so much. I thought it was really funny.
The one sort of line that was okay in that thing was the guy's like, oh, it's an obvious suicide. It's a decapitation. That was the only partially okay dialogue. That led into that scene where the Star Tour, was it Starline tour bus?
Tour bus.
And they make all those horrible jokes about Japanese tourists, and then there's a Japanese rabbi. After you Star of Day, I was like, oh man, yeah. All right, what else do we like?
I laughed at about 4 of those lines. The only other thing I laughed at, which I think you again touched on as being something really bad, is when what was her name? Cara, the little girl. Karis. When she wants to give Jeff Garlin the dance, and and she just stands behind the red curtain doing nothing, and then he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, this is the pre-entertainment. I just thought that was really clever. And it did annoy me that her silhouette was facing one way and her toes were facing the other way.
Yeah, that annoyed me.
But I just thought that was quite funny. And this is all in the first 20 minutes when I was really leaning into it, and then I got nothing else.
I've got her dancing scenes in the worst. What was the scene where she's just standing at the window staring at him?
Yeah, she's creepy.
Yeah, she's creepy.
Anyway, I had a good laugh out of those, and I watched them again, and they're a little bit funnier the second time.
I might need to watch this again for a third time.
Yeah, true.
Heater.
No, my main one was, I thought the best part of the movie was Jerpis and his 2 stories that were just so crazy and with specific details. So specific about all this stuff. I love the first one with the girlfriend. I'm like, this is fantastic. And then when he does it again, I'm like, this is just such crazy details, specific details. I love that. I could have listened to him talk about specific detailed murders for the whole movie. I thought he was fantastic. Those parts were the funniest parts.
I think
of the movie.
they could have used one more. I think it would have been funny with one more.
Because they were just hilarious how crazy and detailed they were.
Even the drive-by, he says that it was like a Greens. He specifies what car it was.
Yeah.
That did the drive-by.
You could have had him come in at the end when they solved the crime and just say,
I figured it out.
Yeah, I figured it out. And then just like, no, we've already worked it out. That would have been funny.
I also liked in the first one with the golf murder how he gave everyone names. So
that's true, yeah.
Maybe his name's this, maybe his name this, maybe they did this. It was, I thought that was very good, and that was my favourite part of the movie.
All right,
and that's all I had.
Good scenes, Jesse.
You have any good scenes?
The scene I liked, we spoke about earlier, was that the drive-in scene where he goes to the burger place, Norm's Burgers, and he says to the guy taking his order, he goes, "This is the last night that I'm going to eat bad." And the server, the guy serving him, says, "That's great. You can be your best self." And then he sees that sign and it says, "Set thine house in order." And he looks at it and he's like, "Okay, I'm not going to eat this meal," and drives off. That was my favourite scene. Something nice.
Yeah, good.
Had nothing to do with the comedy, but it was nice.
Yeah.
It was nice.
All right, what didn't we like?
The opening 5 seconds when they ruin the movie.
Okay, this is where we probably need to talk about this.
Might as well do it now.
So, if you haven't watched the film, hopefully you have watched the film, the opening scene tells us who the murderer is straight away.
I couldn't believe that.
So he literally, as Steve Webber as well.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Steve Webber.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy this
Is this before the credits?
Yeah, before the credits. What does he say? This
multi-format
mystery something.
Yeah. He's I play the killer.
Yeah.
Or the murderer. Hope you enjoy the film, sort of thing.
So I was sitting there going, you don't need to do this and you don't get it. But then you tie it in with the title and what Jeff Garlin's trying to do with this whole genre sort of thing. And if it's sort of playing on these riffs of American crime shows where, at the start of one of these crime shows, they'll tell you who the killer is. And then it's how you get to the killer. So you think CSI, those sorts of shows. You see who,
before every ad break, they used to do the last
little recap. So and I get like you're trying to make fun of it, but with those sorts of shows, you're either sitting there for 22 minutes or 44 minutes. So your attention span's not that long. It's like, okay, I can deal with this as long as we're going to get to it quickly. Whereas this is a feature film. Like, so you've got to sit there for 80, whatever minutes it was.
80,
yeah. And then, they follow that up with this Bond-esque sort of song that goes over the credits. And it's like, if you're going to do it properly, like, a Bond song always has lyrics. There was no lyrics. It was just this chick with the hula hoop that you see in the front lawn that he sits across all the time. Like, you got to go the whole way if you're going to do it. And
so he said that the reason that they revealed it was because he didn't want the film to be about finding the killer. This film wasn't about discovering who the killer was. This was about, and initially he's thinking, okay, so he wants it to be about the comedy. So let's focus on the funny. But his thing was all about Gene Handsome. He wanted this film to be about the character.
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of following his lonely life and his story. I don't think that necessarily worked. And I when the scene first hit me, because I obviously read that later on, I listened to an interview with him later on. When that first scene hit me, I was like, did I just see that correctly? And then when that guy first comes on screen, I was like, all right, that's the dude.
Yeah. I hated that they told us. I think I would have enjoyed the movie a lot more if it was the mystery, not knowing who did it. I couldn't believe they told us at the start. I was like, okay, well,
I think you could be right.
I'm watching this now. Like, I really didn't like them telling us at the start.
Did you think while watching it that maybe that was a joke?
Yeah, I did.
A bit of a joke, and also I guess it's more like, okay, cool. Now we can focus on, I guess, how he did it and how they catch him, but just didn't do it for me. I would have preferred the mystery. The mystery of the killer.
I wonder if they put the film together and it was just way too far-fetched that this guy was the killer, and you didn't quite put it together. And they thought, maybe if we just let him
tell
know
him at the
straight
start,
away, and then we can focus on other things.
I can definitely see that if you didn't know watching it, because it was pretty far-fetched.
You wouldn't admit that.
Like how they got to...
in the end, but when you're like, he's the killer, so it's going to happen, then you happen to like, of course,
yeah. I feel like if they didn't tell you at the start, it needed to go for longer than 80 minutes because they needed more like of them working out it was him.
Yeah, because there's a few red herrings there where they're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
You're always a little bit sus on the...
Yeah, the fireworks guy was looking good
and
for a while.
even the next door neighbour, a little bit sus on her.
Yeah.
But yeah, didn't like it either.
Yeah, no, did not like that at all.
Anything else?
Didn't like? I didn't like the two scenes of the neighbour's daughter dancing. I thought they were really weird and creepy.
Yeah, same.
I didn't like the cookie scene with the babysitter at the start when he was trying to give them the cookies.
Oh, yeah.
And she wouldn't open the door and she wouldn't really say anything. It just kind of dragged a little bit and felt a bit awkward. I don't think that went as they would have planned it.
Yeah, I think... I didn't mind the concept of that scene, but it did go on for a little bit too long.
It was kind of strange. It was like they started filming it. He's like, let's go with this. And it just didn't really work. And then the other one was that weird scene where he's... I don't know if I didn't like this as much as... I know what they were trying to do. It didn't quite work. Where he's having that stare-off with the lieutenant and the clock's ticking in the background and they're just looking at each other for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that down there as well. And the whole joke of that guy, Lieutenant Kenda, rocking up, like, it doesn't work unless you have background knowledge of who that guy is.
Yeah.
Because he hosts his own crime show in America.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I read afterwards.
And
that makes more sense now.
Yeah, and like if you don't have that knowledge of that show, then that joke doesn't work. Like him coming in there and always saying, it's the ex-boyfriend or whatever. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's like, "Told you it was the ex-boyfriend." He's like, "Yeah, whatever."
Like if you had, I know that Judge Judy's a different character, but if for a worldwide audience, Netflix is a worldwide business. If you have a character like Judge Judy making a joke, then more people are going to get it because she's more.
Did you know who that guy was?
I did because of when I watched it the first time. So when I watched it, I'm like, this guy's from a crime show.
Oh, right. Okay.
But the first time you watched it, you didn't know who it was. Yeah.
Nope. So yeah, you guys have mentioned a lot of the scenes that you liked. I've already said I'm a massive fan of. You're talking about the cookies. I didn't like the setup of the cookies with the lieutenant either. I thought that was weird where she was talking about, she's comparing these cookies because they're like beach balls and she's talking about balls and she's like licking these cookies. And then she makes some comment about, I've had my tubes tied. I was like, she was just a creepy character.
Because before she started talking, the cookies started actually looking pretty delicious. So I was like, you know what, I'm kind of hungry. Those cookies actually, they're kind of beach with all nice and colourful. Hey, that was pretty good. And then she started talking and looking at them and I went, okay, I'm not hungry anymore.
I could always go a cookie.
I'm going to jump a bit and ask you a question. What's the difference between cream and lotion?
So that was...
That's in your questions?
No, I had that in my bad scenes as well.
Any scene where it's talking about, lotion's water-based and cream's oil based. Who cares? Like they just played on that too much.
I wasn't interested in that by the time they were overdoing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it actually played a very vital part in
Yeah,
solving
it
the
did.
crime.
And I learned something new.
Yeah, true. I've forgotten it though. What's the difference?
There was
One's water-based.
Yeah.
Other one is oil-based.
Oil-based.
I couldn't tell you which one it was.
Oil base is a real slippery one.
Yeah.
I didn't like. There was this scene where Handsome's in the house, like talking to Karis's mum about Nora about who's her housemate, and she's writing down the housemate's name and number or whatever. And he makes this comment about, "Oh, you don't dot your I's," and I was like thinking the whole time, okay, this is like leading somewhere. Like she doesn't dot her I's, and then it just
You're right.
there was
Yeah.
nothing else.
And then it didn't lead
to anything at all. I was like, because that's not funny as a standalone.
No.
joke.
I agree. I remember thinking that as well, and I forgot about it.
Didn't lead to anything at all.
Handwriting's going to work out
No,
something.
I reckon we missed something.
Yeah, and probably
Kind of weird that she just left her kid with him after she just met him.
he's a cop. You trust cops.
Yeah, and an excellent neighbour. That's a pretty safe recipe.
Pretty safe.
First time meeting him though. Kind of weird.
Yeah,
the other
you're
thing-
right, it is.
The other thing that annoyed me was Penny from Big Bang rocks up. Kaylee Cuoco.
I just love saying your name, Kelly Cuoco.
She rocked up for 4 lines. How much do you reckon she got paid for those 4 lines?
I got a feeling
Maybe.
maybe she's got a relationship with Jeff Garlin.
Yeah.
I hope so, because
Yeah.
that was enough. That was nothing.
I think she just came in as a favour and said, I'll
Yeah.
come in and say a few lines for you.
All it made me think of her was, you're horrible. You don't look after your dog.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Didn't like
Yeah.
that at all. Doesn't
it's
just
just
locks a
your
dog
dog.
in a garage while she goes to Hawaii
I was
or
going to say
whatever.
she's been away. It's
Yeah.
not like she went to the
Yeah.
shops.
That was a strange scene to put in at the end, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Anything else we didn't like?
Nah.
Good. Right. What was the movie trying to say? What are some themes or anything that we saw?
That all I could think of was that loneliness.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole thing about Detective Handsome was his life is kind of lonely, and I know we spoke about whether he cares or not. I think he's supposed to care. It's kind of sad. Him and his dog, and his dog's like his best mate, which is nothing wrong with that, but like his only mate almost. I don't know. So is there something about missed opportunity to live life to the fullest, or something like that?
Sounds about right.
This is like a quote from Jeff Garlin, and he goes, "I have that theme in the movie of someone who is really good at their job, but in their personal life, they're not a jerk, but they're having trouble."
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people like that, so people can associate with it.
So if nothing else, it's almost just like a portrayal of it rather than a commentary on it. It's almost just like, this is happening, you might be able to relate.
Yeah.
We haven't got the answer for you, which...
And I think like it's like every day's a tough day for people that work hard. He talks to his dog and he's like, I've had a tough day, blah blah blah. One other thing, like
I used to do that. When my wife went overseas for a few weeks, I'd come home and talk to my dog about like my day. Because like... Not that I have an isolated life because I see people all the time, but
like us.
it was but it was kind of nice coming home and talking to Bernie about that.
It was probably talking like having a go a bit at Hollywood stars for a little bit too. Like we were just talking about Penny from Big Bang, Kelly Cuoco. She doesn't look after a dog, and the dude who's the murderer, like literally, they couldn't have made him out to be more of an arrogant, up himself.
I'm an actor.
He cracks it when someone doesn't like his film or his acting.
Yeah.
And
What does he say when he's like, is it possible that you might have missed something? He's like, actors are so finely tuned.
Yeah, that was all I could really pick up on.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's interesting, that quote from Jeff Garlin, because it's almost like he's just showing you this is something that's happening. I guess not every film has to have a proper commentary and idea on why or why not. Just it happens. Because we didn't really talk about the end scene, but like it just kind of ends. And this is actually one of my questions. Did he buy her a property? Is that
I didn't interpret that at all. But
I didn't think so. But
she moved.
Yeah,
off
but
to
she
live
didn't
at-
have any money to do that herself, I guess.
And then he was kind of standing, and she was like, "Thank you, like I'd invite you over, but you'd be too awkward with all that." And that scene where she's like, "Oh, I won't." And he's like, "Oh, I'd like that." No, it's fine. So I got the feeling that he bought her like a property, or he somehow got her out of
Helped
it.
her, yeah.
okay.
Which is just like, why? Why'd you do that, man? Like,
Yeah, I did not read that at all, but that's a very interesting take.
so why else do you think she was like saying? Thank you so much. I'd invite you over to come, but let's just do like a clink. I don't know. Because I was like, what else does she got to be thankful for? That he solved a crime that actually technically had nothing
For
to do with it.
babysitting a kid, for
I just read that
for that
as
night
in,
they,
like,
they were talking
trying to-
together, maybe.
I just read that as them trying to build that, he still had feelings for her, and then she just hugs the removalist dude for too long.
Well, she's clearly shallow as hell.
Yeah.
Like, shallow hell.
What a movie. Jack Black.
Didn't hit me.
What else? What do we take away from the film?
Felt like a really long pilot of a TV show.
Oh yeah.
Rather than a movie. It just like I feel like this was going to be this could have been a pilot. It was way too long, but yeah, if like a pilot of a TV show.
I can absolutely see that. It's a really nice thought. A part of me wonders whether I missed something. And to your point about the dot in the eyes, there's too many little things that didn't add up that I'm like, nah, surely they would have done that. So maybe we need to watch it again, guys. Maybe we need to have a big laugh again.
I laughed more at that than I did in anything in this film.
I don't know. I feel like I might have missed something. I don't know. It's a murder mystery after all.
Maybe there was more detail in Jerp's stories. Maybe we should watch those ones again.
Maybe there was actually things that Jerpus was saying. Not cinema worthy though. I don't think you need to pay your $20 to go see this one on the big screen.
No, not at all. Not at all. Did either of you look up IMDb at all to check out anyone that you saw in the film?
I did. For the neighbour, Nora, who looked really familiar to me. She was in I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I actually didn't. I found that after the fact. I was just playing around on IMDb. So I wouldn't actually do it when I was watching it. But yeah, she was the mother of the bad guy in the house.
Yeah.
She was quite funny in that.
Yeah. And that they steal the lawn ornaments from her.
Yeah.
I thought she was pretty good in that. It's like kind of that housewife.
And she knows that they were actually like faking it.
Yeah.
She just wanted some company.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was my one. I kind of saw her and went, yeah, I know you from somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't have anything.
No, neither
did you?
No. It was just her, but again, that was after the fact.
Any questions you want to ask?
No, I don't have any, actually.
2.
Yeah.
What's the go with the girl in the hula hoops? Was there something like they just kept showing her? Did we see her do anything else?
Nah. Just the opening credit scene
and then
him sitting on his porch looking at... And that...
It's got to be more to that.
Okay, that's probably something that like I'd probably want to talk about. So this film's filmed in LA.
Yeah, very LA.
Okay, why to you is it very LA?
I think I think you sort of associate that kind of neighborhood streets.
The house is
Hollywood.
You got the actor living there.
To me, this was like usually in a film, LA is like a character. Like
this is going to go down as one of those famous movies about LA. You're going to jump on Google and type in movies in LA, and it's going to have LA Confidential, La La Land,
Live and Die in LA. No, it's not like
I know.
Heat, like they are distinctly LA. Like films based around Hollywood, La La Land, those films they're around. Like think Rebel Without a Cause, those sorts of films. They have this distinct feel about Hollywood, about LA, about those sorts of things. To me. And then that makes LA a character,
Sure.
He needed LA to be a character in this because he's making fun of actors and he's pretending he's like this cop in LA. Whereas I had no feel in this film whatsoever about him being a part of Hollywood or LA.
Okay.
There were no landmarks. There were no, apart from the Hollywood tour that comes through.
You got the bus going.
Yeah, the bus. Apart from the bus that comes through, like you don't see him sitting in a diner that looks out over things. You don't see him going past the Hollywood sign or down Rodeo Drive or any of those.
More
sorts
suburban
of things.
though.
Yeah.
So that's not LA. That's not Hollywood.
It's not Hollywood.
No, it's not. It's not that vibe of like films and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's probably also an air of convenience about being shot in LA. He's not busting out a big budget on this.
No, not at all. But like, I get if you film in LA, you put something in there to give you that mystery of LA or that that attention that you get for that. So, yeah, I don't know that sort of annoyed me a little bit.
How'd you get the segue from the girl with the hula hoops to that?
Because that reminded me of this film was filmed in LA and he's trying to show this suburbia of him being a suburban cop where he's meant to be this. You've got this Hollywood actor in this crime scene on a Hollywood actor and this party with these celebrities that they try to get all the show bags from, and it's just him sitting in the suburbs watching his neighbour with a hula hoop.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
I'd much rather see, like people in their front lawn sunbaking with their sunglasses and in their bathers because that's more Hollywood than a kid with a hula hoop.
Yeah. I didn't need to see Hollywood to appreciate the suburban side of it though. Yeah. LA was not a character, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Another one?
Did we miss any sort of payoff? I know we sort of spoke about it, but there was no payoff for him as a character.
No, I don't think so.
He ends the film in the exact same situation that he starts. And he doesn't start in a bad place, but...
Yeah, I had that as well. I was like, was there any growth in him as a character?
Yeah.
I don't think, sometimes you see this film where a detective solves the crime and you're like, oh, they're on to upper and better things, but not with him. It was just like back to normal.
And it's not like he wasn't
He's going to
crying out for
retire
help.
soon as well.
He was going to retire, but
How do you see his retirement?
He didn't make it out like he wanted to retire at all because he wasn't signing those papers.
It sounded like a forced retirement.
Yeah.
Maybe he's getting old. I see his retirement as him sitting at home with his dog all day, every day.
Watching a
kind
girl
of a bit
on a horse.
sad, yeah.
Well, his next door neighbour seems retired and he just bangs his wife all the time.
It might be about actually,
King of Queen's wife.
I was going to say, Leah.
she was my IMDb.
Yeah.
King of Queens. Because
Yeah.
I had that written down. I was like, MJ will like this one.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it's gone.
I thought when you mentioned Kevin James, that's what you were alluding to, that his wife.
I did. I had that in my notes. I was like, oh,
That would have been awesome if he was living next door with her.
Yeah.
That would have been really good. But then that wouldn't have been LA at all.
I had another question. What happened to the golfer with the boner? Like, that would have been a more interesting crime to solve.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going with Jeff's story. Yeah.
Yeah, they solved it
They
straight
solved
away.
it. It fell out of a plane.
He fell out of a plane and they're happy to be dressed up as golfers. Yeah, it was that. I'm going with his big elaborate story.
I want to watch that scene again. I can't remember the details of it. I remember thinking, like, this is pretty funny.
I loved it.
It still got me straight away when he's like, the Detective Jeff is like, yeah, I know who you are.
I hired you.
Yeah, that's why I hired you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but my dog definitely did bark.
Oh, yeah,
in this
it
one.
was what a dog.
So, Candy the dog, which, by the way, if you look at IMDb, which you probably did, Candy the dog is the second cast.
The one thing that annoyed me was the order of the casting on IMDb.
Alphabetical last name.
Annoying.
Candy the dog is the second name. It's something. It's got the dog's name. It's like something, and the surname is Great Dane. But when Candy came on, Todd was barking so much that Bernie, my other dog, who doesn't care so much about animals on TV, he just got up and left because he just didn't want to deal with Todd's bullshit this whole time.
Yeah, good. All right, let's wrap this up. We give our film a rating out of 5 and then add them up to work out what our average is on Flicks Forum. Heater, kick us off.
So I didn't think this movie was very good, but it also wasn't awful either. It was just kind of a strange 80 minutes of viewing. I would have preferred not to have been told the killer at the start. I'm sure there are audiences who would have appreciated this, but it's just not something that I found too enjoyable. But I give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. MJ?
I've given I've just given it an extra half star because of this conversation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I laughed at more things that I thought were funny, and actually, I wrote here, I almost want to give this an extra half star because it was really inoffensive. So I did end up giving that. So I'll omit that line.
Give it to yourself. It's not about us, it's about you.
But this film, unfortunately, never left the runway. I was trying to give it a push start at first, but it needed to support me a little bit to help. The whole concept was just never really thought out. The humour didn't quite land, but there are enough laughs, and it was really easy to watch. I wasn't bored by it.
It was an
or
easy
anything
watch.
like that. 2 stars.
Okay, so acting performances, they weren't horrible, but most of the lines and the character traits, they just didn't land for me at all. When I was on Netflix said I had a 97% match for this film.
Oh, that's disappointing.
I felt let down. It was like when a friend forgets something about you. That's how I felt. I was like,
I like that. That's clever. Maybe Netflix isn't your friend.
nah, maybe it's not. So if I was Netflix, I'd be removing...
Or maybe it's because you watched it before and they knew that.
Whatever. Maybe.
Actually, that's true. Once you watch the film, it doesn't tell you...
Maybe I need to put the thumbs down earlier. Yeah, if I was Netflix, I would be removing the mention of it being a Netflix film in the title. I'd just call it Handsome.
Very strange,
I'd get rid
isn't
of that, yeah.
Very strange.
Get rid of that straight away. So I'm giving
But
this...
I was intrigued. What did you give it?
I don't know. I'm waiting.
Sorry, I was intrigued by that title. I thought that was interesting. So we've got a whole list of films that we're going to be covering on this podcast, and that's one of the few titles that piqued my interest. And I reckon maybe probably not because the viewership's not that high on it from what we've seen on IMDb and Letterboxd. But if you're flicking through a film to watch on a Saturday night, you're like, oh, well, this is something that's made specifically for Netflix. You know it's a murder mystery. That could be fun. I guess that's the reason behind it.
Could be fun if they didn't give away the murder mystery in the opening.
But I'm talking about
Murder mystery for about 3 seconds.
I'm talking about the title only.
So anyway, I give it a 1 out of 5. So Heater, what does that give us as an average?
That's a 1.67 out of 5.
That sounds about right.
We've done that before. We've had
Yeah,
1.67s before.
Yeah.
So I like this question now. Now we've had this discussion.
Yeah.
I've got this question set up for our social media where you can jump on there and answer our question. My question this week is: would Handsome have worked better as a weekly procedural TV show?
Yes.
Good question.
And thank you, Heater, for bringing that up earlier because
Yeah.
we must have been on the same page. I reckon, yeah.
22-minute TV show, just a different case a week. I definitely think that would have worked a lot better.
Is the character interesting enough to get you back each week though?
Maybe in a short time frame, like 20 minutes, and you'd be like, oh, those jokes were funny.
I want a Gerber story an episode.
Minimum, yeah.
At least.
And as long as the Fleur's there as a firecracker next to it.
I think. I mean, I'm still not saying it would have worked, but I think it would have worked a lot better than this film.
Yeah, I can give you that. Yeah.
Well, hit us up on our social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We are at Flix Forum. Please subscribe if you haven't already. That would be nice for you to jump on board and give us a positive rating on any of the platforms you listen to us on.
We'll give you this gold every week.
We will, because next week, and I am going to struggle massively with the cast list for this film, so I apologise in advance. Next week is a 2017 CGI anime sci-fi action film.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
This is our first animated film that we're going to look at, I think.
Interesting.
Which is
right.
good.
We
It is
haven't
called
done that.
Blame with an exclamation mark.
You can pronounce that. Well done.
I can, but now I've got to get into it's a Japanese film, so
I figured you said
So it is directed by Hiroyuki Sashi, and it stars the voices of Takehori Sakurai, Kainai Hanazawa, Sora Amirara. I'm struggling already.
No, you're doing well.
Okay, next one is Mamoru Miyano, Ayu Suzaki, and Nobunaga Shimazaki.
Have you typed them phonetically?
I did type these phonetically
Well
to
done.
try and write them out.
No,
So
respect.
very
I
good.
gave it a crack because I didn't want to let the people down. So I did do this
I think you've done a good job there.
This is awesome. I'm looking forward to this.
So this should be good. It's a sci-fi anime film. So
Sci-fi. Okay.
anime.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm picking it early here.
Why would you just assume I'm not going to like it?
It's just based on your reaction when you go nice.
Who knows? We could be pleasantly surprised.
Your face was like, oh my god, that was classic. All right, so jump on board, give that a watch if you want, and we will discuss that next week. So thanks as usual for having a good chat.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.